welcome to you, Kapil, and thank you so much for being with us this evening and being present over here to enlighten us with, what's been your experiences all this while. So, to do due justice, if I may quickly invite you to, introduce yourself, and of course, before you do that, we would like to welcome you to this platform. This time around, I'm going to be your facilitator and I'm going to take you through this conversation with Kapil Gupta. Kapil Gupta is CEO and founder of Solh Wellness. So, Kapil, what really gets you to enter into this space of wellness? Where it all really started from? If you could, quickly tell us about it.
Okay. So let me first say my experiences have been very similar to many people on this call today. I started off as a digital marketing agency nearly 2 decades back. Okay. I have, an experience as an engineer and then master's in engineering and IBM for 7 years. But really, my experience has been 2 decades of running a digital marketing agency. So I understand the challenges of each and every person in this room. Also, that is probably the reason why I moved into the mental wellness space a couple of years back. I mean, really, my experiences in mental wellness has been 2.5 years back. I saw a switch flip. I mean, I saw conversations in the professional space. I saw changes in the personal space. I saw people's ability or inability to do things that really needed some help. And at that point of time, I used to do blogging and, some writing and everything. And I started looking at this notion of mental wellness as a bigger pandemic than COVID could ever be. And that's really when I started delving into the space. And it's been an incredible journey over the last couple of years. How we looked at mental wellness was much different than how most other organizations look at. So, every time I get somewhere, I ask a basic question. Have you ever done anything on your mental health? Now, in a physical room, I'm able to get answers from people. But let me summarize, instead of posing this question to everybody, let me summarize what I receive from everywhere. And you can figure out where you are on this cycle. 50% of people that I ask this question give me an answer. They have never done anything on their mental health. Never had to think about it, never did anything, it's not something we talk. 40 to 45% people give me an answer. They're saying they do something. I go for yoga, I do some meditation, I listen to some music, I travel, I go for dancing, I go for parties, something or the other, some specific activity that I do for my mental wellness. 2 to 5% people would be, giving me an answer saying, hey, you know what? I actually work on my mental health. I go to therapy, I do counseling, I have gone to a psychiatrist once, I suffered this anxiety attack once, or I had this case of, I was mildly in depression or fully in depression or whatever. But I had a mental health challenge and I had to go through and do something. This is really the equation that I get. And this is where my mental health journey starts. Let me change the world for you a little bit for a minute. Let me do a thought experiment. How about I say to everybody in this room, irrespective of what you do, where you are, and what your life experiences has been, what if I say, guys, today, more than 16 hours every day, irrespective of who you are, whatever you do is mental health. Every action in your life and every decision making in your life is influenced by mental health. The problem is you don't realize it. You don't have what I call as first the vocabulary. भाषा ही नहीं है to relate to it as mental health. Number 2, what I call as tools. The tools that you require to ongoingly be able to seek mental wellness help. And 3, a framework. तो भाषा भी नहीं है, औजार भी नहीं है, और एक ढांचा भी नहीं है. So vocabulary, tools and framework. And my experience is if we are able to empower people with this, a lot can be achieved. Specifically in the organizational corporate world where there is a huge problem right now.
Fantastic. I think this really kind of builds a lot of credibility. Of you being in this room, Kapil, because I think most of us will relate with what we're going to really speak about today, right? And begins at the same time. While I will be posing a few questions to Kapil from my side, and I hope that most of the questions that we'll be discussing in this room would be relatable for you guys on the other side. And feel free during the conversation to post your question in the chat window. We will pick it up during our conversation. All right. So be yourself, be comfortable, speak up, ask your questions, guys. Yeah. So firstly, Kapil, if I have to ask you that, uh, okay, just yeah. So if I have to ask you, what are some of those key signs or indicators that someone may be leaning too heavily towards work at the expense of their well-being and sanity? What are those key signs that you would probably tell us in the room today, which would indicate that somebody is overly getting involved into their workspace and they are somewhere kind of putting unnecessary pressure, and that's a self pressure that probably happens to be the best and to be the first in the race. So, what is your thought here?
So let me first say, we have to divide these signs in two parts. One is a sign that an individual sees for themselves. And the second is a sign that others would notice in the individual. What makes mental wellness very interesting is a lot of mental wellness has to come from an individual's ability to be able to notice things for themselves. It's a lot. Most of the times, it's not possible for the external world to really delve deep into the thoughts of an individual and be able to figure out. Having said that, some of the specific signs that I look for is, first of all, when you wake up in the middle of the night, what do you do? Do you check your phone? And that's not the only answer I want. I want the answer, you check your phone for what? A message from a loved one, a news article, or you check for, has somebody from work sent you a message? No.
I think Kapil, here we should for sure take a little pause so that we hear some responses. I can see RJ Yogi has responded. Twitter, I only look at time on my watch. So
Perfect.
RJ Vikas says that the time that he keeps a check on. Anybody else in the room? What is there a unique response than what Kapil and the RJs have posted out here in the room? Can we quickly hear it from you guys in the chat box? Any unique responses? Why do you pick up your phone middle of the night? You just woke up, you open your eyes. Is there something different that you're checking on your phone? Message from loved one and message of work. Okay, that's a diplomatic one, so we can't. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else? Any message? Any unique message? Anything unique that you look for in your phone middle of the night? Option 3. Okay, Himanshu shocking in. What's option 3? Sense of awareness. Nilanshi Shukla says sense of awareness. Reconfirmation. Okay. Is it already the time to go to work or do I have more time to sleep? Okay, Shivani, I'm with you. I completely relate. I even catch up with those few minutes of sleep, in the morning. Okay, work. Okay, Himanshu says work. Thank you for that. So I think, Kapil, there you are. Your audience are pretty much there with you and they are able to understand where you're coming from. Yeah, so over to you.
The second aspect that you want to look at is your own sense of control over your life. And when I say your own sense of control over your life, I'm talking about the balance that you need. And I'm not. I don't want to use the generic cliched word of work-life balance. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want you to look at a more holistic picture of your life. Specifically, a lot of the work that I do is talking about mental health for women. And specifically over there, what we see is most of the times work-life balance becomes, am I able to devote enough time for my kids or my family and my work? But there is a third person in the room, and that third person is you yourself. Do you get enough time for self-care? Do you feel your emotions, your feelings, and what you have to achieve is getting neglected somewhere? That for me is the core aspect of where, somebody is leaning more heavily towards work or prioritizing and not taking care of their well-being. One other extremely important attribute that I want people to think about, and this is specifically valid for people that work in media, be very clear about what is it that you are out there to achieve. I have this theory of, just like I talked about the 16-hour theory earlier, I have this theory of people either need to be financially independent or people need to be career oriented. Many a times people amongst us actually have a need to be financially independent. I want to earn enough money so that I can live my life comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
That's a brilliant place to be in. Most of those people end up slogging themselves in because of peer pressure, because of competition, because of this unintended need to grow, and they make their entire life miserable.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. We hear you. Okay.
So financially independent or career oriented? Take your pick.
Fantastic. I think you're putting us to think through as to what are we really doing to ourselves and how are we really managing our day. So productivity being one of the aspect of our conversation today, Kapil. I would quickly like to bring you on the second aspect where, most of us use this term very commonly, okay, in our day-to-day professional space, and that is strategy. Okay. So what strategies or techniques, can our biggies use to prioritize their tasks and ensure that they are dedicating time, in a balanced manner, a professional space, and also, anything that they may want to pursue in their personal space.
Yeah.
So what is that strategy or that technique you would like to recommend to our biggies in the room today?
Sure. So let me start from where I left off on the last question, which is financially independent and career oriented. Within that, set realistic goals, time management, and prioritization. My sincere belief is, and when I was talking about everything that you do in your life comes from the perspective of mental wellness for yourself. When you start thinking of aspects in your life that way, and you start living your life that way, what you would end up doing is you would realize you are never short of time. You just choose to prioritize some things that you will do and some things that you won't do. Sometimes you end up adding so many things to things you will do that, time becomes lesser. So just have that realistic goal for yourself in what you can in all areas of your life. Not just this, and this is not a work question. This is a question for all areas of your life. Whether it's the work that you do, whether it's the kids that you have, whether it's the family or the friends or whatever, or whether it's your own personal self-care.
Awesome. Awesome. I think we are very much going in sync. And Biggies, feel free to pose any of your questions that you may have on your mind or any comment that may add value to, all the participants who are connected with us at this point in time. So my next question that, I have on my mind, and let me pose it on behalf of Biggies who are here, is that how can our colleagues, okay, our biggies identify what are the stress triggers, all right, and implement stress management techniques to maintain their mental and emotional well-being, because it's a very competitive environment that we are operating into, Kapil, right? And I also told you about the diverse workforce with which we are operating in our business life cycle. So, stress, because there is so much of demand, there is so much of change that we kind of go through, kind of unlearning old things, learning new things. So stress could be, from any source. What is that one thing that you would like to recommend and suggest, to ensure that there is a very simple and yet a unique technique to manage stress?
Sure. So let me first say, um, you know, my mental health is my mental health, none of your mental health. My stress is my stress, none of your stress. What stresses an individual is never equal to what stresses a different individual. I may be able to take stress in a very different manner versus somebody else. So one thing that everybody needs to do for themselves as well as for everybody else is never judge anybody's stress, never judge anybody's mental health. It's their own personal. Now, let's get to an individual looking at themselves. The most important aspect of looking at stress. And I always say what causes the most stress amongst people is not the stress, but the stress of the stress. Okay. So on that, one most important attribute that people need to look at is self-reflection. So when I created Solh Wellness, when I was talking about the vocabulary, the tools and the framework, we said in the tools, amongst the tools, people need to be able to get self-help and people need to be able to get community help. What I would very strongly suggest people to do is to look at self-reflection from the perspective of self-help. So, things like mood trackers, things like goal setters, things like screening and self-assessments, and also people to look at community support. So doing a journal for themselves, looking at experiences of other people, participating in relevant support groups specifically attributed to areas where you have challenges in. And, so at Solh Wellness, and I don't want to be salesy in this, but, at Solh Wellness as a platform, that's what we have tried to do. Self-help tools, community support tools, and third, at the last, comes expert intervention where we say, okay, you need more help. You want to go to a counselor, you want to visit a psychologist, a psychiatrist, get some allied therapy, do something else. Absolutely, by all means. But most important aspect for stress to look at, to actually identify the trigger, is doing self-reflection in the form of self-help tools and doing self-reflection in the form of community support tools. Now, in terms of, let's then get to the question of how do you do stress management? Firstly, go to the basics. Okay, absolutely, just go to the basics. And let me do a 60-second exercise on this.
Let's go. Yeah.
If I can just request everybody with me when I say, okay, if you can just do what is called as box breathing. So breathe in, hold, and breathe out. Just that, just something as simple as that. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. So let me start. Let me just change my posture. So let me start. When I say breathe in and breathe out, and just follow me. So, and we will do it 3 times. So breathe in, hold, breathe out. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. And now a bigger one. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. Let me now ask everybody to think. For the last 60 seconds of your life, did you forget all the stress that you are in? I can assure you, most of you, if you will intrinsically think of yourself, for those 60 seconds, you forgot the stress that you were in. So that's what I call as go to the basics. Whenever you are stressed, the first most important aspect is, of course, breathing. Within breathing comes mindfulness and meditation. I don't look at mindfulness and meditation as different than breathing. For me, they are all very related to each other. Second aspect that you need to do is seek social support. Never ever keep your stress to yourself. Share it with people. Do self-care. do more positive self-talk. Okay, so share it with people. That's what I was calling as community support earlier. The third thing that people need to do is to take care of their nutrition, their hygiene, and their sleep. Let me repeat again. Your
Very
nutrition,
important.
your hygiene, and your sleep. Next, after this, comes what I call as professional health. Okay. You have a flu. How many of you do not go to a doctor? Many of you were thinking, I don't. How many of you don't go to a doctor if it is not getting cured? How many of you don't take a medicine at all? For those of you who never ever take a medicine, maybe you don't need professional help and mental health as well. And you are strong enough that you will go through it. For everybody else, there is absolutely no harm. There is nothing called as taboo in mental health for me. 16 hours a day you spend doing your mental health. You just don't know that you were thinking mental health all day, or you were taking action and decisions based on your mental health. Why is there this taboo that exists with people saying, I won't work on my mental health? Because, what would people say? They will think I'm crazy. They will think I'm stupid. They will think, I have something wrong. Well, yeah, there may be something wrong with you. But then there is something wrong with you when you get COVID. There is something with you when you get typhoid, or when you get any other virus or any other bacteria or any other fungus, or any flu or anything else. Every disease, every time you struggle with anything from a physical perspective, there is something wrong. You just take a medicine and you take care of it. That's exactly how you need to look at mental health. Here, it may not be about medicine, but it may definitely be about counseling and therapy.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I think I completely agree with you, Kapil. In all the experience that I have for last 15 years now, I've had opportunities to interact with many senior professionals from different industries. And let me tell you, to my surprise, I think this taboo which still exists in different circles, different corners here and there. But, many of these senior professionals who are seated at, senior positions in bigger organizations, they consider their mental well-being related interventions as very important aspect of their professional space or in their personal, space as well. So I think for somebody who is wanting to grow, evolve with, time, it's important that we keep a constant check that where are we really operating from. And, if we could also get professionals to support us and get us back on track in case if we are losing it anyway. So I think I'm really happy that we are talking about this. Now let me quickly also read out. There was a question posted by RJ Vikas. What are the symptoms one should look out for in case they are ignorant towards one's own well-being? So the symptoms part that we are talking about here. Yeah.
So let me start off with, if you know that you are ignorant towards it, you are more intelligent than most other people. Most other people don't know that they are ignorant. In this scenario, if you are not able to figure it out for yourself, the one absolute thing that I tell people is go for counseling. See, the challenge is, we earlier used to live in a world, and I will put a little bit of Indianizing and Indian philosophy in this. We used to live in a world where we had cousins, where we had uncles, where we had friends, where we had neighbors, and they were all extremely nosy and pokey. But you know what? Along with being nosy and pokey, they were our support structure. They were the pillars on which we would be able to get everything done. We don't have that anymore. Many times, those pillars, those structures for us now are our counselors. West has moved not just into counseling, West has moved into things like cuddle therapies. I'm not suggesting, we are there yet, but definitely counseling has to become mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Most of you should have counselors just so you can share your thoughts with. My WhatsApp status for a really long time was choose your climb carefully. There is, too much loneliness at the top. as a CEO, and I've been a CEO for, a better part of the last 2 decades,
Mhm.
when I am in a mentally tumultuous situation, who do I go to? Who do I turn to? I mean, people like me, where would they get their help from? And of everybody will suffer from stress. Everybody will suffer from burnout. Everybody would suffer from something. And research says, and I do this exercise when I'm doing my physical, events. I do this exercise. Research says 1 in every 5 people will suffer from depression at some point in their life. So in my physical events, I ask people to look at the person in front of them, behind them, on their left and on their right. If you are clear, none of them is going to have depression, then it's probably you.
Okay, I think, yeah, these are some, thoughts, questions that keeps crossing our minds here and there. We may accept, some may say that, oh no, I don't think about these things. But the other reality is that, with the competitive environment that we are operating into, these thoughts are very normal to cross our minds. It's just about how are we navigating it through all of these, interrupting thoughts, right? Now, Kapil, with the decades of experience that you hold in this space, what is that advice that you would like to offer on setting clear boundaries between work and personal life, especially in a world where remote work blurs these lines? So we are an organization where we are still operating in a hybrid setup, Kapil. So we do have flexibility, for each of our biggies, where they can, there are clear schedules that we have in place. So, but then we still see that work from home again is somewhere turning out to blur those space of personal and professional. So, what is it that you would like to advise to maintain that boundary is very clear?
Sure. So firstly, let me say, the world hasn't changed in terms of work-life balance because you are now bringing your work into your home. Where work-life balance has changed very significantly is you are now bringing your home into your work. So think about it. How many times when you are in your office or in your workplace or whatever, you are doing things which you will categorize as personal, which you used to not do a decade back? How many times would you look at a WhatsApp message from, a loved one, a friend, a family, your mother, your partner, your, friend, whoever else? So what has happened is the boundaries has gotten blurred. So it's a question of creating balance. It's not just a question of doing boundaries. You can't necessarily get into an environment now where you say, I work 10 to 6, I go home and I don't think about work anymore. Well, you can probably do that. But then are you not going to bring your home into your work or your life into your work? It's not, that's not the environment or the world that we live in now. In a hybrid environment, the challenge becomes even that much more critical. I think what people need to do is to create boundaries for themselves, more in terms of how they are going to create this balance. Do time slots. Okay, it's not just work or just office and doing a 8 hour 860. The 816 formula or 915 formula or 1014 formula doesn't work. Do slots. Here is this dedicated half an hour, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour that I will spend with my kids. Or here is this whatever slot that I will spend with my parents, my family, my friends, whatever else. Here is this time that I will spend enjoying, a glass of wine. Okay. Or whatever other activities, or watch a movie, or whatever it is that you like to do, or go to a salon, or go for shopping, whatever it is that you want to do. Create slots for those and ensure you put those slots within your life, and you be a stickler about it. You work your everything else around those as well. So they should become an important part. Okay. And I understand we all, we work in media. So there is nothing called as emergencies won't happen. I mean, Modi ji will come up with another demonetization and all of us will wake up from whatever slumber of sleep that we are in, and we'll all have to, come back and do something, or something else would
Absolutely.
happen. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that you will never change, but put those slots as in a week, I will achieve this for sure. And then, or in a week, a day, or a month, depending on what role or what is it that you are in.
Sure.
The one other thing that I recommend is, and by the way, I don't do any of what I'm recommending myself. Okay. But one other thing that I would absolutely recommend is turn off your notifications.
Mm-hmm.
Most of your phones actually come with an automated feature for it. You just need to enable it. So between X time to X time, you won't get notifications. You may still wake up and watch your phone, or you may still one or two numbers on such an emergency that it will ring. All these capabilities are extremely available in almost all smartphones now. But do a little bit of that, such that you are able to respect some of these boundaries as you create them. And everything is not an emergency. An emergency is a life or death situation
Absolutely.
for you, for your company, or for somebody else. If it's a life or death situation, yeah, it's an emergency. A lot of times what happens is, and I think this is one of the questions that somebody has asked on the group also, how about people that they think that they had a better potential? Well, a lot of times these are people that consider everything as emergency. They think they can just go up and up and up. There is no, except for when you have a pencil and a paper and you are drawing something. Okay, there is nothing called as a straight line growth path.
Mm-hmm.
It always is rocky. It always is peaks and valleys, and that's what you have to churn out. If within that you have a linear lineage in how you are progressing, you are growing. That's, I think, many people, and I don't have a problem with those people that do that to themselves. Of course, they need help.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we evaluate our surroundings by our ethics, morals, and our belief system. That, I think, is a fundamental challenge that we all need to avoid, each and every one of us, for the benefit of others, and more importantly, for the benefit of how it impacts you.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a different approach to working. As I was saying earlier, some people are career oriented, some people are financially independent. The financially independent one is not going to do something on Saturday, Sunday because they have a weekend travel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are not good or bad. I'm not suggesting,
Absolutely.
I don't have a moralist, a morally high ground for either of them. They
Mm-hmm.
are different individuals with a different set of beliefs and different requirements from life. Just figure out what your requirement is and you follow that path. And you say more power to you, to everybody else who follows their own path.
Absolutely. I think this was a brilliant aspect that you brought to the table, Kapil. And I think it's also about, I mean, it's taking me somewhere to this thought of inclusivity, right? Because that is very, very important. Because while we expect ourselves to have our own space, our comfort at some point in time, I think it's also important to ask ourselves whether we are creating an environment around us, for others also to experience a similar thing. So brilliant. I think, yeah, there is a lot of scope of doing self reflection here, Kapil, and thank you so much for bringing all these aspects. As we are nearing close to the end time, let me quickly also pick up what Sulakshana has to say in the group. So she has posted in the chat box. There are few people who are too critical on themselves and their achievements. They feel that they could have done better or have a better potential. All right. Few may say it is a good sign as you are constantly setting newer standards, but at times it may affect your well being. How to handle such team members, or at times we also feel that way as managers. What would be your advice for this topic?
So this is what I was talking about earlier. Be clear on your goals. Where is it in the spectrum of career oriented and financially independent do you sit, and then manage that path? Some of us make life choices, but take your life choice in a very empowered manner. And I mean, I don't mean to be gender biased, but I say this more to the women. Uh,
Mhm.
Take your life choices in a very empowered manner.
True. True. I think that's a That's a well said. I think that statement itself was quite powerful. I think it's important that, irrespective of gender, you take your decision, you take your individual calls rather than getting influenced with external situations, with somebody else who you really like, who you really admire, because each one of us have our own trajectory to
Yep.
experience, right? Which is unique from the other person.
Yep. Let me give you an
Brilliant.
example.
Yeah,
Actually, this will help kind of put things in
sure,
perspective.
sure.
There was this person that used to work for me. She used to have some equity in my company. Okay? She got married. She was in a certain situation, and she said, "You know what? Can I not take my equity and I continue to make the same money that I was making earlier, and I only work 6 hours a day?" I'm not talking about post-COVID. I'm talking about 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "You know what? More power to you, girl." I mean, it's a stupid decision from a purely financial standpoint. I mean, you are giving up equity in the company for just having a leeway of couple of. But if it is something that works for you and you are doing it in an empowered manner, I mean, more power to you. That
Super,
person, of course, went, came back, and now has again has equity in actually multiple of my companies.
super, super. So, Lakshana, I hope that gives you that gives you a relevant response that you were looking at. Right? We move on. I think we have some good questions that is being posed today in the room, Kapil. So I think you've been really good at that. So RJ Vikas has another question for us in the room. What are your thoughts on vacations? Are they good or bad?
And let me give a biased point of view on this. Okay. Number one, it's a question of the company that you work for.
Mhm.
I personally am a very work from office kind of an individual. Okay. However, if your company has the capability to let you work from anywhere, by all means, please go on a vacation. The challenge that I have seen, and which I struggle with all the time, 70% of people, when they are working from home, are actually, or working from anywhere else, are actually doing work as they would in their office, or maybe more. 30% of people are not. 30% of people are barely handling emergencies. And what happens is it sometimes becomes a problem for the other 70% people.
Mhm.
So if you are somebody that is in control of your work and your organization lets you, I mean, absolutely, by all means, do vacation. Okay, work from. I actually, one of my cousins during COVID went to Hawaii for vacation, ended up buying a house there, is also doing some farming in Hawaii right now. I mean, so strange things could happen, and more power to him. I mean, he's doing absolutely what he thinks is the right thing in his life. He did a vacation, and it worked out really well for him. So, if your company allows, and if you yourself are committed enough
Mhm.
that you can manage your work as well as you would while you are in office, by all means do vacation.
Super. Yeah, I think that also demands a lot of commitment, dedication, just so that, we spoke about, lines getting blurred at some point in time. One may tend to get influenced that, Arey, bahar ka mahal is super, and, there are so many places to visit, and then suddenly one would, feel that, okay, let me change my mood and let me not work today because I'm in some amazing place out there. Yeah, so we have Jitendra Jaiswal asking a question. How can we overcome if anyone facing failure, stress, and strategies for a strong comeback? Okay.
Sure. So in this, there are three things. Number one, self-reflection. Okay. You have failure stress and you have strategies. You need strategies for a strong comeback. You need to do self-reflection. Self-reflection in two senses. One, in the sense of what is it that was causing that failure for you. Okay, was it unreal goals? Was it your inability to perform at that level? Or was it some other extraneous circumstance that was present at that point of time? And based on this self-reflection, you now take a call, say, here is how I will create a new strategy and make a strong comeback. The most important attribute in this is to not take it personally. Do not ever get into a situation where you just, where as I was saying earlier, where the stress of the stress becomes more than, you could take.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a problem. And, I have this philosophy that I call as passionately unattached. So in whatever you are doing, be very passionate. I mean, do it with as much power as you can, but then be unattached to the results at times. It may succeed, it may fail. You may be able to get it done, you may not be able to get it done. As long as you did your best, I mean, quoting from Gita, as they would say, karm kar, phal ki ichha mat kar. So do whatever you can, be as passionate as you can be, but then sometimes be unattached to the goals, so that if you are failing, you can do self-reflection and then you can come back with, a potential answer. That answer may be smaller than where you were targeting earlier, may be equal to, or may even be bigger than what you were targeting earlier. But do that self-reflection and come up with that strategy.
All right. Let me quickly ask this one, question for everybody. And because let me tell you, this is something which is extremely important. It may sound like a very stupid and simple question, but it's important. So I'm really keen to know what Kapil has to say on this. So, Kapil, I'm skipping a few questions that I had on my list, and I'm going straight to this one. How can our biggies communicate about their needs and boundaries to their supervisors and colleagues to ensure that they are operating out of a healthier work environment? This is extremely important, right? It's about being yourself. Why we say that, yes, you got to be yourself. Not everybody may be that comfortable, right? So how do you really suggest that, our biggies can communicate what they really want to express comfortably to their colleagues or their supervisors?
Sure. So there are, a few words that I would use in this. Number one, it has to be confidentiality. Your supervisor and you need to have an extremely confidential relationship, where the supervisor actually is, responsible for helping you grow. Is a participant, is almost like, I mean, I don't want to use the word mentor or advisor, because they are slightly bigger words than what may be needed. But they have to be participant in your growth as an employee, as an individual. If you are not in an organization, and I'm sorry for saying it this way, Radha, but if you are not in an organization where you have such a supervisor, it's time to probably make a change. It's as cut and dry as that for me.
Sure.
That's one part. Second part is, organizations need to think through, not just the supervisor, but the organizations need to instill that culture in the organization.
Absolutely.
Where they respect every individual's needs and they are able to provide a customizable environment for every one of those individuals. There is this one person that will always come late to office. You can do whatever you want, but this will never come on time in office. Now, that doesn't make that person a bad employee all the time. So sometimes they may be because they are not doing anything else while they are there also. But sometimes that's how they are. Or there will be this one person who needs a leave on Monday because that person was partying hard on a weekend. Okay. New organizations need to look at individuals as individuals and develop that. And the third word I would use into this is also anonymity. There has to be a structure within the organization where individuals can participate anonymously, where they can share their thoughts anonymously, and where all of that, you are talking about mental wellness and you're talking about people, what they are doing. There is a lot of our thoughts that we don't want to say out loud. A lot of what we want to change that we can't express openly. Maybe in a few years, we will get into a world where that expression is more allowed. Not right now. So the organizations for now need to at times be able to provide that anonymity environment to the individual as well. So confidentiality is an extremely important portion.
Mhm.
Anonymity is something, which is absolutely needed at times. And then, of course, you create a structure around this as an organization. It's the culture of the organization. If it is there, it will be in the organization. If it is not, it won't be in the organization.
True, 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 true. Sure. I think that's a very good perspective, Kapil, and I think we genuinely take pride in the open culture that we follow at Big FM, because very happy to share with you, Kapil, that in our organization, while every organization has their own structure to follow, but our senior leadership or leadership across all the levels are not very hierarchical based, right? So you will always see that, many associates in the organizations have multiple platforms where they get to interact, place their thoughts, place what's on their mind. We talk about challenges that they are facing in their respective function in front of the CEO, COO themselves, right? So we have open platforms where our leadership kind of comes forward and gives an opportunity to our biggies to ask whatever they want to place their thoughts, to bring in new ideas, do trial and error, be cognizant of the steps that they are taking, right? So that's the kind of open culture that we are operating out of. I will take this quick one question, very simple, but yeah, I think this could be a game changer for an associate in a different manner. What if there is, team in the office that makes an individual feel left out? Kapil, how do you really, what is your recommendation, your suggestion for somebody who is experiencing that kind of a left out feeling at workplace?
So, so I have this philosophy of uh, belief in the system.
Mhm.
Always be in an organization where you have belief in the system of the organization. There would definitely be times where you would be left, where you won't be the focus area for everyone. It could happen because of professional reasons, it could happen because of personal reasons, and it could happen because of variety of other factors.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sometimes, your team, you just don't fit in that particular team at that particular point of time. Again, it's not that you don't fit in at all, but you
Mhm.
don't fit in at that particular point of time.
Mhm.
Have that belief in the system and look at that organization that you are working in. Can you have that belief? Can you just, sometimes it's important to just put your head down, focus on your work, and this thought, and this thought, whether it is your perception or whether it's a reality that other people have, and it will mold itself and it will alter itself. The day you lose the belief in the system, I mean, change the team, change the environment, change the company if you need to, but
Mhm.
really that belief in the system is extremely important. Have that. An organization, a supervisor, more often than not, okay, there may be times which are extreme, more often than not are not, they're not fighting a war with you. They are co-participants in your success. I mean, I always tell people in my organization, unless you will grow to the next level, how would I grow?
True.
Right? How would I grow if you can't, or if you won't, or if I can't help you grow? How will I move?
Absolutely.
We have created this culture in our company where we say the best way to work is make yourself jobless. And the day you will make, and I tell this to everybody, irrespective of what level they are in my company,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
always say, the day you become jobless, so the day you are able to figure out other people who are able to do your job, you are
Okay.
ready for the next level role in the company, because you have grown and you can do something else.
Super. I think so. That's where we're talking about a lot of aspects in line of delegation, right? A very proactive way of delegating the, kind of activities you are leading at this point in time, so that, one gets themselves ready for the next lead. So superb. That's a great response, Kapil, and thank you so much for that. I hope that the concerned person is in line to the response that you've shared for this. Thank you so much. Any particular story, a success story that you may want to quickly talk about in this room, Kapil, that has left a mark in your mind with, just that close to perfect balance between career and the personal space one may be operating out of, and ensuring that, the sanity and the productivity aspect is managed very well. Any such success story that comes to your mind?
See, one success story I already shared about this employee that used to work and took a very empowered choice and, maintained an extremely healthy balance of what the person needed at work, what they needed in office, and what they needed for their family. Okay. Now that I run a wellness organization and we have a mobile platform where all the while people keep coming, sharing their stories, and people keep coming and they are talking about what is going through with them, and they take counseling from us, they take support from us, they participate using variety of our tools. I have all sorts of stories. I mean, I have seen everything now from a depression to a gender identity issue to different phobias, to different kind of work related issues, to relationship issues, to parenting issues, to everything else. I mean, it's just a matter of, and simply put, it's just a matter of, are you able to get the vocabulary, the tools, and the framework? If you are able to, you will be able to grow. And I always use this phrase, if you have to improve your performance in a specific area. I mean, for students, I say, if you have to improve your performance in a specific subject by 5%, and assuming you needed to put in X hours to improve your performance in that particular subject by 5%, you put that X number of hours in your mental health, and your performance in all subjects will probably increase by 5%. Not just that, your performance in probably all areas of your life will increase by 5%. So it's extremely important to look at how you are mentally. I mean, one aspect which actually, I'm working on a book on mental health that will get released in a month and a half, maybe 2 months. One important aspect that I ask people there is, how about I give you a choice? Okay, assuming, I have the power and I give you a choice. Would you want to be somebody with 2 hands and 2 legs and unhappy? Or would you choose to be somebody with 1 hand and 1 leg and are happy? Which of the 2 lives would you choose? If you
And
think about
responses. Okay, I'm keen. I'm keen to know what our biggies have to say. Which is the role? Which is that one thing that you may want to pick? The first one or the second choice? What's your choice, guys?
2 arms, 2 legs, and you are unhappy. 1 arm, 1 leg, and you are happy.
So on, quick, guys. Use the chat box to tell us which is your pick. Okay, you want to have 2 legs, 2 arms, and be unhappy. Okay, so Ajay Yogi, that's your choice. Anybody else? Okay, or Shivani says option 2. All right. Rasika says second. All right. Anybody else in the room? 2. Ajay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So I think there you have the bar going up on one side. Oh, okay. We have Somikan saying first one. All right. Okay. So yeah, Kapil, over to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
If I have the choice, I will always choose second. And this is where I say, mental health is probably the only thing in the world that I would be willing to give an arm and a leg for. My happiness, my peace of mind is the only thing that I would give an arm and a leg for nothing else.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we are closing on a very, very positive note, and it was my pleasure, Kapil, to hold this conversation with you today in this room. Our biggies are gonna be in super action mode starting now, which we have already started because we are now gradually moving into that peak festive season. And I think there's a lot of action that each one of us will be doing. And with all the aspects that we talked about, guys, it's important that, one really takes care of themselves at all times. Parents, child, spouse, and all the extended family. Yes, we have them all. They all are core in our lives. But the foremost and the most important person in your life is you.
Yep.
Okay. So I think self-care, having clarity on what are you really out for to achieve is, another aspect that, Kapil talked about. Self-reflection, a constant need of self-reflection is another aspect that we all should be, operating from in our professional as well as personal space. Ensuring that we are dedicating our time equally for all the roles that we play in our lives is something that we have to manage at our end. So if we are one of those who say that, oh, I don't get time with my child, I don't get time with my spouse, I think we really got to do a quick check on our schedule and then plan it better, right? Ensure what I also picked from Kapil's conversation today is timely D&D mode has to be on, right? So do not disturb. We want a lot of, spaces where we say that, hey, please do not disturb me at this point in time. I think it's important that we also practice it religiously to make some time for ourselves and balance our work, our thoughts in a much more structured manner. And like I always say, each one of us are unique, in our own selves. So try not to replicate what somebody else is all about, because you are a different personality. Let's adore and let's constantly work towards making ourselves a better version rather than trying to become somebody else, right? So I really like this aspect of what Kapil talked about. Workations, I'm sure that you have heard the response from Kapil over there. Very important, be the person who is not getting judgmental about anybody else's mental health space, because that only showcases your space of maturity where you're operating from. If you are getting into the state of judging somebody else, I think you are narrowing, or the ecosystem is getting affected in a not so great manner for that person, right? So be very conscious about what kind of ecosystem are you building around yourself, right? Another aspect of what we always respect and appreciate is about maintaining confidentiality at all times, anonymity that Kapil spoke about. So, in your space, I'm sure most of us are operating with some of the other aspects. We are handling data, we are handling information, which has to be, kind of stored in a very, very confidential manner. So are the softer aspects of our lives, right? Culture, I'm sure most of the biggies would agree to us, Kapil, that, we touch wood, by God's grace, so far, that's the experience that I have gathered in the last 1 year at Big FM, that culture is something that nobody can really question us upon. And it is only because our biggies are very much in sync and aligned and are ensuring that the openness in our culture is constantly restored, realigned, as and when, there is a requirement that occurs. Belief in the system, I think that was a beautiful aspect that you spoke about, Kapil. Thank you so much. I think this really instills a lot of power, a lot of credibility, a lot of sense of responsibility, sense of comfort in the room today. And I'm glad that, I had this opportunity to strike this conversation and bring in more aspects to the table for our biggies. So thank you so much, each one of you. I hope that, today's conversation has added at least itna sa value to your professional circle. And we only hope that, on a month-on-month basis, so we bring in more of such interventions for you guys to only make you a better and much more stronger individual, right? Let me not be biased and say a professional, but a much, much sorted individual, wherever you guys are. So thank you so much for staying connected with us. We had hit a max number of 105 in the room, Kapil. And of course, today, I'm sure that people would also be having commitment. It's 7:10, but not a bad number at all. We still have our biggies connected, and I could see them being very, very interactive in this session. So thank you so much, Kapil, for sharing all the insights that you did for the last 1 hour's time.
Thank you so much for that opportunity, Radha. I think it was a fabulous, time interacting with the various biggies. It's a channel that I listen to almost regularly. I'm of that. I'm your perfect audience. I'm of that age. I like that flow. So it's something that works well for me. for everybody, this session is just a start of the mental wellness journey, or should be looked upon as a start for the mental wellness journey for everyone. Come on the Solh Wellness app, where we provide a huge amount of capabilities. It is free for users. Okay, for individual users, we provide it for free. There is a subscription model for organization that, Radha and I can at some point of time talk separately about, but it's free for individual users. So please come there. And if there is any help, any support, anything that I can provide, or that, Solh Wellness can provide to any of you, please come up and ask. I have shared my coordinates, my social coordinates in the chat here. So look forward to interacting with some of you in the future.
Fantastic. I think this is a fab conversation that we had, and I'm sure that biggies are taking away a lot of learnings, and they will be cognizant that they take care of themselves, moreover, and take care of their mental well-being at all times. Thank you so much, Kapil, once again. Have a great time ahead, all of you, and thank you for staying connected with us. We'll see you next month with something more unique. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.